Welcome, beautiful creatures, to the Lightness of Being podcast, where we celebrate the dance of life and explore ways to find joy, laughter, and lightness, even when faced with challenges. Join me, your host, Monika Stefanik, as we step into the light and discover a realm of potential and possibilities for greater ease in our lives. Let's laugh, learn, and grow together.
Oh my goodness.
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey. And hello, you beautiful beings and creatures. Welcome to the Lightness of Being podcast, episode 7, I think, actually.
Ooh, it's a good number.
It's a good number.
Yeah.
It's my favorite number. It's the most powerfully magical number.
And my favorite number is 52, and 5 plus 2 is 7.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're here for it. We're gonna have to talk about why that's your favorite number at some point.
Don't actually know. Okay. It's just
We solved that mystery. Oh my goodness, it is a wintry day here in such an amazing way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to spend this whole day on the mountain and just in time to be able to come here for this podcast to sit down with you and have this really amazing chat that I'm so excited. So excited to have. I have sitting beside me my beautiful soul sister and magical woman, wise woman of the womb.
Yeah, thank you.
You're so welcome. Dr. Brianne Grogan. Yes.
Yeah.
I spoke about you a little bit in my first podcast and a little bit about our session. I mean, I did not go into detail, of course. But yes, I was like, this magical woman I will definitely have on the podcast at some point. And here we are. Welcome,
Thank you.
So glad you're here.
So happy to be here. Yeah, to talk about the yoni throat connection.
Yeah.
Whew. Juicy topic.
We're here for it. Before we dive into that,
Yeah.
what's something that you're celebrating right now in your life?
The first thing I thought of, I'm celebrating many things, but the first thing I thought of was our house that we're building. Yeah, we're building a new home. So my husband and I, and it just feels like roots, which is really, to me, like the pelvic womb, like the whole thing I'm interested, the whole thing I do with my life is about my root. And I feel like we're really putting down roots here in Oregon and, Central Oregon where we live. And so I'm really excited about that. The house is slowly starting to be built. The foundation is poured and we planted beautiful crystals in the ground before the foundation was poured. So that felt like a really beautiful blend of practical and magical.
Yeah. Honing in that land. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you. And in the meantime, we get to soak in. You have welcomed me into your home currently as we're recording. So thank you for that and for your office space.
Of course.
Do you want to share quickly a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. So for sure, I am a pelvic floor physical therapist and I have been working as a physical therapist since 2006. I started specializing in pelvic health, women's health, in 2007 when my son was born. So my son is now almost 18.
Wow.
So I've been doing pelvic health and specifically focusing on women's health since then. And for many years, my work was entirely online. So I actually was not seeing people in person. I was educating through YouTube and through online courses. A book that I have, but recently I've gone back into hands-on care and I'm just loving it so much. It's so nice to be with real humans again and not just in front of a screen.
You've created some magic online though.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. You're so inspiring to me and what you've done and what you create. And I know so much of it is, I think about your Leo energy and I'm like, how did she just go and do this all the time? And I'm like, okay.
I'm a Leo and a generator. There's a lot of there's a lot of fire here.
But you've created and brought so much to this world and helped so many women, which is
Thank you.
Such a gift. Oh, we're so blessed to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to share something really quick because just about being out snowboarding on the mountain today, it was actually a fantastical and like life-changing day for me because this is only my like third season maybe, but something about today when I was up there and like the powder and just like the vibration that I've been in and like me just honing in my channels and keeping everything really clear, like I was in this flow and I actually got the movement down. And so instead of just being like, oh, I'm gonna falling leaf it a lot of the time, like actually looking like a real snowboarder up on the mountain and realizing that like deep not just like core connection, but the deep pelvic connection that brought in and having that like intentional space. And I was like, oh, I get it. I see it now. And I was able to like tune into it in a totally different way. And then it completely changed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think it was because you were so centered? So not just the musculoskeletal, like muscular core activation, but just like a centered kind of grounded feeling at the womb?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This like creative center and everything that's been shifting and changing that I've been like honing. I'm like, oh, I see everything coming online. Because sometimes when I go out to the mountain, I'm always like, I don't really know how today's gonna go. Like, especially on a stormy day, if it's white out, I'm like, I don't know how far I want to like push myself, but like.
But you remained in your center.
The whole time, and it was just phenomenal.
That's amazing.
Phenomenal. I had a great time. I'm like, let's go more.
Yeah.
I'm like, now I get it. Now I've got it.
Yeah.
So great.
Amazing.
Yeah, this connection is so is something that I am just now starting to tap into. So getting to sit here and converse with you about this, and also having your hands touch my magical amazing body and like start to like tap into that in a totally different way has been profound.
Well, and to hit on that, I mean, I know we're going to talk about the throat and the vocal area at some point soon, but there's a difference between being a pelvic floor physical therapist and being someone who's actually tapped in to the energy. I mean, and I'll just speak for myself. I'll say that when I started as a pelvic floor physical therapist in the medical profession, I wasn't tapped in. I was doing it. I loved it. I was doing a job that I was interested in, and I thought it was cool to learn about the muscles and the exercises we could do, but I wasn't tapped in to like I wasn't rooted in the energy, the softness, the slowness, the magic in the way that I am now. And it's only growing and growing and growing. I'd say the tapped in has only been the last few years, and I've been doing pelvic health for 18 years. So it's wild. It's such a beautiful journey, and it just keeps growing.
I can see it in you. Like we've known each other for maybe like 2 years.
Two years, yeah.
At this point, like the transformation that I've seen in your vibrancy from like, just like tapping into the energetics of that is a game changer. And
Thank you.
I see it reflected in your overall aura, as you should call it.
Oh, that feels really good.
Energy field.
Thank you for reflecting that.
Yeah, of course. Because then it also channels into that space of like what you are bringing through in your more one-on-one physical connections with women in this space. It's like all of that like has been cultivating and leading up into this moment. It's like there's no way that you probably could be doing what you're doing right now if you hadn't cultivated that space within yourself in order to understand it and be able to be like, okay, and now I can hold space for you. Yeah, and being able to transmute that magic in some kind of a way through words, which is very hard to translate, but to find it to like, we're guides, right? Like as one-on-one healthcare practitioners, we're guides. And the only way that we can do that is to show up in true authenticity for our own journey and lead from that space and not go not go outside of our realm of our scope of practice, as the science community would call it, but to like be able to relate from a personal standpoint.
Right. Yeah. That's why we have to keep growing. Like we have to keep growing. We have to keep developing ourselves so that we can keep gently leading the way along the path.
I mean, like science has a place and so does energy. And energy is such an amazing space. Like, there's no way that we can tap and tune in unless we bring some slowness, some attention, some quiet, just actual deep presence to the space. It's like you can do exercises all day. And if your mind is thinking about your to-do list and it's not actually being present with what you're doing, whether it's yoga, whether it's like pelvic floor, like physical therapy, there's a connection.
Yeah.
It's a whole different type of topic. Like that's a different connection that.
Well, you could be making love and be not there. You could be thinking about the dishes. Mm-hmm. But if you're present, totally different experience. Connected. Yeah.
Dropped in. Mm-hmm. Which takes practice.
Oh, yeah.
And working through some shadowy things and stuff that comes up for us. Yeah. So, let's talk about...
Should we dive in?
We should dive in.
Yeah.
The womb, the throat, the jaw, like all of this. So can we start maybe at the space, because when we're developing like in the uterus, right, as children, like these pieces are connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I have some notes here because I wanted to make sure that I had all of the connections that I think of when I think of this yoni area and the jaw, throat, vocal area, the connections. And so I just wrote a bullet list. We have embryological, fascial, muscle, nerve, and energetic. And so I kind of wanted to cover all of those really briefly.
Please.
Okay.
Take us away. Take us on the journey.
Yeah.
Here for it.
Well, and the reason even why I'm so glad we're talking about this is that I know that 3 areas that many people feel held back, and I'm gonna say women right now, or people who identify as women. I know personally areas I've felt held back are expressing my boundaries, expressing my feelings, and especially the potentially more darker feelings. I mean, hey, it's easy to be happy. Well, it's not easy necessarily, but a lot of people, I remember growing up, people would say, "Why aren't you smiling, Brianne? Why aren't you smiling? Oh, are you like it was bad to not be something that was other than smiling and peppy and happy." And that's something that really stuck with me. And so it can be hard when society expects us to be smiling and happy, to express some of those more challenging emotions. Rage.
Kali rage.
Sacred rage.
Sacred rage.
Grief. Sacred rage, grief, like all of those things that we may not want to express. So expression of boundaries and expression of emotions, and then sexuality. So sexuality and power, right?
Yeah.
And like these 2 areas, the throat area and the pelvic floor, yoni pelvic bowl area, those are both areas of everything I just said. They're both areas of sexuality. We express ourselves vocally. We express ourselves. We, have this part of our body. Sexuality is an element of our pelvic area. And again, the emotions and the boundaries. Think of the boundaries that our pelvic area has to enact. And often those boundaries have been violated. So boundaries, voice, boundaries, pelvic. Feelings, voice, feelings, pelvic. Sexuality, expression. It's all tied together. So with all that being said,
we're going to be here for 5 hours.
I know.
I love it.
I was like, I don't think we have plenty to talk about. So the embryological connection, fascial, muscle, nerve, and energetic connection. So just that embryological connection, without going into too much detail, the way I understand it and think of it is basically the jaw and vocal area and the reproductive area in the very tiny baby developing embryo. It's really just cells at the beginning, And as the embryo is growing, they grow away from each other and the spine grows in between. So it's almost like they unfurl away from each other.
Like a flag.
Yeah, which is kind of gorgeous. But they're really made from they were next door to each other and then they grew apart, but they come from the same primordial tissue. So that's kind of a cool connection.
Yeah.
And then the next one that I wanted to talk about was fascia, which is that connective tissue that you know all about as a body worker and expert that you are, but just keeping it really simple and, add anything to this. But fascia is this tissue that surrounds everything. It surrounds our muscles, our bones, our organs, and it hooks everything together from toe to head. And there are specific lines of fascia that are very connected, as studied by, or really made popular by Thomas Myers, Anatomy Train's author. And this person has found specific lines of fascia that are even more connected than other areas may be. And the deep front line is the one that I really love looking into because it connects foot all the way up through the inner thighs, all the way up through the pelvic floor and pelvic area, up through the breathing diaphragm, up to the throat and neck and jaw. So this specific line of fascia specifically really connects all of those pieces. Yeah. And the pelvic area is right in the middle of it all. So, and the throat and jaw area. Mm. And then speaking of kind of tissues, muscular wise, it's really fascinating when you look at the anatomy of the pelvic floor, which is really my bread and butter, is pelvic floor anatomy and the muscles of the pelvic floor. So without getting into detail, if you ever Google what the pelvic floor muscles look like, it is wild. If you then Google what the muscles of the throat look like, they're like the same. They're wildly the same. And then in between those, you have the breathing diaphragm, which looks a little different, but it's still kind of like it's a hammocky diaphragm bowl area, thing.
Kind of the opposite direction.
Right, right. Yeah. And they all move together. The throat muscles and the diaphragm, the breathing diaphragm and the pelvic floor, sometimes called the pelvic diaphragm, they all move and work together. They're like this very eerily similar connection. Boom, boom, boom up the line. So embryological, fascial, muscle, nerve. We have the vagus nerve.
Yes, we do.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Longest cranial nerve in the body, connects the brainstem area to all the way down to the pelvic area. Mm-hmm. So the vagus nerve goes through the face, even there's a branch that goes into the ear area, to the face, the neck, down through the neck, down through the innervating the lungs and the heart, down through the breathing diaphragm, pierces that breathing diaphragm. So it's gone through the throat, pierced through that breathing diaphragm, down to the guts, and all the way down to the reproductive area. And what I kind of a little soapbox I have is that there's a abysmal amount of research on women. Women are really hard to study, admittedly. We have a lot of hormonal fluctuations and changes that make it hard. We have babies. We can't have babies, which makes it challenging. But there's just a lack of research on women. And although it's hard to find documented in the general literature, but the vagus nerve goes all the way down to the cervix.
Wow.
And it's really hard to find evidence of that in the general knowledge. I didn't learn that in school, but it does innervate down and then other deep nerves of this system, of the parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic, innervate the reproductive area too. But the vagus nerve in clinical studies of rats and mice innervates the cervix, the uterus.
Wow.
But I
haven't done any studies on humans.
Well, I don't actually know that for certain. I just know that when I've looked into it deeper, the studies that come up, I'm like, oh, there's a ton of studies saying that the vagus nerve goes down to the cervix. Yeah. But when I look deeper at them, they're more animal studies. Okay. But to me, I'm thinking, well, I don't know if anyone here has had a cervical orgasm, but if you have, there's a very intense sensation that is it's indescribable almost, but the vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, very expansive, relaxing when stimulated. Yeah. It helps relax us. Yeah. And that cervical orgasm can actually feel quite expansive and relaxing. In a way relaxing, in a way stimulating, but not like more like a
blissful.
Yeah. So anyway, wild.
Amazing.
So we have this nerve connection, and then energetic wise, and then I'll zip my lips, I promise, for a moment.
We're here for a moment. I was like, we're here for you.
We're here for it. Before I talk about energetic, did you want to add anything about fascia or muscles? Because I mean, this is your...
Not really. I feel like you covered it
Okay.
so well. I mean, like, I love just talking about the fascia in regards to like, it's like the mycelial network that's in the earth, but inside of our body. So getting to like bring in that connection of like how we are all just yet again, like one and a part of everything. Like this mycelial network connects literally everything that exists underneath us. Like, and we can't see it. And for a long time, like people didn't talk about it or like discarded it. And actually like the fascial system within the human body, like when they would go and do cadaver labs, they were like, we're just going to take this and throw this away. We don't need to need that. Because like when I did my education, and when was that? I mean, I graduated in 2016 with my kinesiology degree. And when I did my cadaver lab, like the fascia was not a part of it.
No, we didn't talk about it.
No, I didn't even like hear that word until a few years ago. And I was like, but I fully like dissected human bodies. Like, why was this not a part of it? Like, it's so incredibly crucial. It is like the most important thing that I educate my clients about and that I talk about. I'm like, this is where we start. Like, before we get into anything deeper, we have to address the fascial network.
Right.
We have to.
Right. Yes. Yep. I totally agree with you. And I experienced the same thing in anatomy. I mean, again, this is 2006 that I graduated from PT school. So it's more like 2005, 2004 when I'm dissecting. But at the time, I mean, we talked about fascia is just sort of like, it's kind of like that membrane that just covers like chicken breasts, just kind of that. So we just toss it away. And the only piece of fascia that we really talked about was like the thoracolumbar fascia, that big, thick fascia of the back.
Yep.
But the fact that it interweaves and interdigitates everything was really not discussed. So I'm so glad it's in the limelight now and people are understanding, because to me, what it really highlights is that everything is connected, and beyond just fascial connections, everything is connected: mind, body, spirit, organs, our organs, our bones, our blood, our lymph, the fascia. Again, the energy
on your foot and like affect like a shoulder like engagement that you have,
Right. Well, and then not to mention emotions and thoughts, mindset. Oh my gosh.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascia is fascinating. It's so beautiful. And it also like starts to bring in this this space that I really love, because like, so a lot of people come to me, as you know, for like deep tissue body work.
Yeah.
Right. And like, yes, we can do that. And I'm good at that. And also like when we start to bring in this concept of actually working with the fascia, it's like the way that we start to lean into that is actually through a softness. Like in our body, like we are constantly bombarded by like hardness and pressure and tension and trauma and toxins all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like now, and as of this month, like I told my clients, I was like, now when you come in to see me, like we will get to deeper layers of work, but we're not going to do it in the way that I've done it before.
Right.
I'm like, we're going to start to address this actual layer of our body first, and start to even tap into like breath work and energy and all of these different spaces, because it is so incredibly important. Like if you are actually serious about getting the healing that you're asking for, then like we have to soften. We have to get into that parasympathetic nervous system state. We have to soften, and we have to understand how to work with the body. And just because it might feel a little bit different and it's not like someone going in and hitting on a trigger point like right away, doesn't mean that it's any less effective.
Right.
And like that is like the main message that I'm trying to get across to people nowadays, because like there are so many people that come in for massage, they're like, I really want to feel it, Like, I have to feel it in order for that change to occur. And I'm like, I get it. I was totally one of those people too. And also like, again, we have this greater body of knowledge now, and like I would be doing all my clients like a disservice by not acknowledging that and bringing it into practice. And then also like the way that I work with my own body, why would I not do that in my practice with my clients? And like if it resonates, that's amazing. Like please come to me, we can do amazing work.
Right.
And if it doesn't, then like that's okay, and I will find someone for you.
Right.
Because all that matters is that you're getting the work that you feel like serves you the best from the person that feels most aligned for you. And that's all that matters.
Right.
But like I do have a specific way of doing things nowadays. And part of that is a piece of education. Like we are here to lead through what we have the privilege of being able to do in our work because of our education. Like you said, this constant growth, not just like individually, but also like as this expansive body of knowledge when it comes to like science and all these different
and bringing it all together.
And being like, hey, you don't have to go and do all of this. You get to come and see me.
Right.
And just like, it's here for you.
Yeah.
And you just get to relax and receive.
Right. Right.
like how often in your life do you get to just relax and receive?
Yes.
Yeah. So if like anything I give to anyone in any session, it's just like, this is space for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it does take time. Like you said, that softening and spending that time. It's not everybody wants that or is ready for it, but it is the way. And that's why my sessions, in-person sessions, are now like 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know how I ever treated a patient in 30 to 45 minutes. And that's even a lot for some physical therapists to have 30 to 45 minutes. And so now my sessions, I'm not even calling it physical therapy anymore. It's a different type of care.
Yeah.
And
the body needs more.
It needs time.
It needs time.
Yeah. It needs time.
It needs so much.
So much time. Me too.
Talking about this, like it needs time.
Well, and that's what creates a cellular state change. When you give that time, your body goes, oh, I remember. Oh.
And not even remember. Then you have the spaciousness to be in it. Because I feel like sometimes even like you get to that state, like let's say your sessions were like 2 or 3 hours. It's like, okay, you might get someone to that state and then be like, okay, now we're done. It's like, no, but now, okay, we got there. So let's sit there.
Yeah, let's stay there. Let's integrate. Let's bask.
Which is like, that is where the medicine is. It's so potent and powerful to be in that space.
Well, and as we're talking about this, I'm thinking that some people are like, what the heck? Who has 4 hours to be on a massage table or a treatment table? And I get it. But I think it's just important to like open this as a conversation and as an idea that we do things so fast in our culture. And at least sometimes we need to balance that with slowness and just understanding that there is a different way to do things than the traditional way that people are doing things, which, as you said, is like fast, more, hard. I want to feel it. And there's another way that maybe some people haven't even thought of. So.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of it is like, I love this conversation. I feel like a lot of it is people, we're going to give you permission, but people giving themselves permission to be like, especially like if you're a mom, you know, you have kids, you have all these responsibilities. It's like giving yourself the permission, the allowance to be like, I can take 4 to 6 hours for myself, or I can take this whole day.
Because think of how that's going to carry over and pour over into your life.
Yeah. Well, and people do, as we were talking about this, I was like, well, you know, people will go and do spa days.
Right.
And that's probably close to the same amount of time. And I'm just like, and that's beautiful. And people will, you know, go and schedule that off. Or like here, you know, people go to Brighton Bush. It's like, even the day pass, it's like, you're there all day.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely amazing. And when I come back from that, I feel absolutely incredible. And I'm so grateful that I did that. And then you zoom out and in the grand scheme of things, you're like, 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
I can do that.
I can do that.
I can do that.
Especially if it's once every few months, once a month, whatever that looks like.
We're not saying every week. No.
But like your overall well-being, how that, just like you were speaking to, like how that changes, like when we change in here, that just gets to radiate and extend out to everything around us, like our family, our money, all of our relationships, like our connection to the earth, our connection to literally everything in our life, our creative expression, how we like want to be in this world.
Ooh, and that's a perfect segue to the final, the final point on here.
We gotta get there.
We gotta get there.
Energetics.
So we've done the embryology, we've done the nerves, we've done the muscles, we've done the fascia. Oh, one more quick thing about the nerve is that the vagus nerve is 80-20. So 80% of the vagus nerve is made of afferent fibers, so sensory, so body to brain. 20% is brain to body. So again, the vagus nerve is one of the primary nerves of the parasympathetic kind of calming, aspect. It's a very complicated system, but it's, the parasympathetic is associated with more calming, slower heart rate, lower blood pressure, like the good feelings that we really want. And the vagus nerve is a part of this system. And so the cool thing about the fact that 80% of the fibers are afferent, so sensory, body to brain, is there's a lot we can do in our bodies to impact how we feel, to impact that connection. So like slowing down intentionally, taking a deep breath, sighing, which both of those are going to stimulate the vagus nerve.
Humming.
The breath and the vocalization. humming, sighing, sounding in any way, gargling. All of those things can help stimulate and activate the vagus nerve, which is going to help with that body to brain input, basically saying, mind, we're okay. We're okay. It's going to be okay. So it's kind of cool that, you know, we have a lot of control. Yeah. We have a lot of control.
And you can still be thinking about your grocery list as you're doing these. Like, that's the thing, is like the mind is still going to be doing it.
For sure.
But like bringing some intention into that, and then it starts to, it's that practice. It's starting to do the rewiring, and then that doesn't happen so often.
Right. Like you said, it's a practice.
Yeah. It takes, and a discipline. I was talking to a friend about discipline and practice the other night, and I was just like, yeah, it's a thing. But it's also like, if you take a look at where you are right now in your life, and do you want to live another day as you are right now, as you feel in your body, like the heaviness, the tension, the stress. Like, stress is like the number one killer in this world, and it doesn't have to be that way.
But it's a practice, and that's where choose your hard. I love that statement, choose your hard. So it's like, what's your hard? So you can choose your hard. You can do the hard thing, which is like developing the practice, or
showing up for it
every day. Yeah. Or you can choose the hard of chronic disease from mismanaged stress, not thinking about it, shoving your emotions under the rug, pretending everything's okay when it's really not. All of those things. So choose your hard. Choose your hard.
And it's no one else's, and this brings in like the topic of like victim mentality, right? Because then people will choose that hard of like shoving everything down, and then when it shoves down, it then ends up projecting out because we're not dealing with it. So then it's going to show up in our external world, and it projects onto other people. And then we're like, oh, you're the problem, or oh, this thing is the issue. And so then like the world around us starts to look really hard. And it's like, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. Right.
And coming back to your center, coming back to your...
And no one else can do that but you. Like, I think that's the thing that people have to get out of. Like, people like you and I and anyone else in the health and wellness industry, it's like, yes, find a guide. Like, yes, find a mentor, or like whatever that looks like for you. Like, find someone to help you through it. But like, they are not the source. Like, you are the source. And that's like the most important thing to come back to, is like, you are the one that shows up to your practice every single day. You are the one that shows up to take care of your body. No, like, people can be there and help you along the way, and can be there with you along that journey, but like, you are the one that has to do it. And I think that's a lot of people.
That person, the healer, can't do your push-ups for you. They can't do it for you. You have to do. Of course, we're not actually talking about push-ups here, but yes, yeah, exactly. No, it's so true. It's so true, and that's why I love the work that I'm moving into, which is so much less prescriptive and me telling my clients what to do, because it needs to come from them, because they're the ones that need to do it, and it needs to be customized to them. And they're really the only ones that know what's going to work best for them too, which goes into the final thread here, which is energy and the connection, the jaw, throat, vocal area, and reproductive area. Energetic. And so we already kind of touched on that, but energetic wise, these are two areas of creation and expression. We create, we birth life through our uterus. Our uterus holds and births a baby if we so choose. Our throat births creative expression, utterance, uterus utterance, uterus utterance. Isn't that cool? I love that too. So, I mean, but they're both areas where we can express and create and birth ideas, or birth, humans.
Yeah.
So, and for people who don't birth humans, for people with a uterus, there's so much creative energy here just for birthing a business, birthing an art project. Like, it's a center of creative energy.
Our root chakra, we all have that there. Yeah. Doesn't matter what your biological stuff looks like.
Right, exactly. And these are also areas where we can have a lot of fear for our safety. And again, kind of going back to that area of avoidance and shutting down and closing up. So we can close up our throat when we're scared, when we're, oh my gosh, we're speaking on stage in front of an audience of 150, and all of a sudden we feel naked and our throat closes up, right?
Nothing about holding and dipping.
Never, right?
Myself, no.
Right. I mean, everyone knows that feeling, and it is the worst, that feeling of throat closing up. But it's a boundary. It's a protective mechanism. And of course, we have the same in our pelvic area. We can close up in our pelvic area, and our yoni can close up when we are feeling like unsafe. Exactly. This is an area of trust when our pelvic area has been violated. We often have a lot of issues in the vulva, in the labia. These are our areas, they're our gatekeepers. Oof. And if our trust has been violated, then we need to do a lot of work to release those areas again. Just like we need to do work in our vocal areas when we feel like we've been tamped down and we haven't been able to express ourselves for so long. So, I mean, you can feel that just as kind of a little exercise. You can feel in your body if you tune in and maybe close your eyes and let's think of something really good and juicy first. Like think of kissing somebody that you're just really into, and your lips are just like wet, like soft, wet lips, like a wet, yummy kiss. And maybe if you can kind of feel that, you can feel your yoni, you can feel your pelvic area just kind of like soften and relax. But if you feel the opposite, if we feel maybe like, like we're, I don't know, somebody that we really aren't into is like coming up to us and they're like coming in for a hug or a kiss, or talking really close to us, maybe a really close talker.
Stalking you on the dance floor.
Someone stalking you on the dance floor, something like that. We won't make it too scary, but like you're just kind of like, this kind of feeling where you're kind of like backing away. You recoil, but you can feel that in your yoni too. You can feel that. You can feel that lift of your pelvic floor muscles, the closing and lifting of your yoni. So energetically, there's these incredible connections. And I don't know where you wanted to take this, but I mean, there's practices we can do, and I love unstructured vocalization as a practice that I think is really cool, because I will say my life changed when I started making noise. When I started using my voice in a way that did not sound pretty.
No, it's just sound.
It's just sound. It's not about sounding pretty. It's just about sounding. And that getting practiced and accustomed to making sounds and expressing yourself leads into other areas of life. Expressing yourself in a way that's not just making sounds and moaning or something. It leads into expressing yourself with more clarity and with more confidence in other areas of life. But sounding, it helps your pelvic area. Yeah. It helps your throat area. It helps you energetically with that connection. Helps you sexually.
Well, that's what I was thinking about, was like that space of when you work on one, the other one starts to shift as well. So it's like, just because you're working up here doesn't mean that you're ignoring this.
Right.
I'll say for my journey, like, man, there's so much that I could speak to, but yeah, opening this has been like my main focus for such a long time, because that was where I could feel most of the constriction. This like didn't exist.
Numb almost. Yeah.
Disassociated. I didn't even completely disassociated. Yeah. And so, but like my throat, I knew because of like the way I was raised, my childhood, and then just like throughout my life, I'm like, this is the area I know, like I could actually feel it.
So you can access this area. Yes. So it was like the point of least resistance. Yes. Start here, it's going to impact other areas.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when I did start to work up here, I wasn't conscious until I started of that connection, until something came into my world probably very recently, like in the last few years. And I was like, oh, by working up here, like I'm actually also getting to affect like my womb space as well. Which is really beautiful. And yet I was like, my focus is still right here. Like I was like, oh, that's a really cool connection. And also like, basically like I'm not ready for it yet. Yeah. Right? Like again, like we have to be ready for whatever that work is when it comes into our world. And so if I was like, here I can work with, here I can find a way through this. Like this feels a lot, not necessarily easy, but more accessible for me to find ways through. And to even like be here sitting with you doing this podcast is like a full expression of all of this like creative energy that I've been like shifting and changing and moving through. And it's been so beautiful, but only because of like, you know.
Well, you've started to release tension. And when you release tension, that's when the energy can flow. Yeah. And so it's amazing.
Flow.
Yeah.
Full creative flow. It's so many ways. And this is such a freaking fucking
it's so cool. It's so cool.
I don't want to swear. Like, it's a gift.
It's a gift. It's a gift. It is. Well, we should try like a quick and easy little exercise is just simply, let's start actually with a high note, because again, like you said, people can access their voice. We talk all day. And so it's usually maybe a little easier than like figuring out what this is supposed to feel like in the pelvic area. Like, what is that? I don't know. Anyone listening on the podcast, we're like pointing down at our like pelvic.
Here, I hope that I keep forgetting. I'm like, there's video.
I know.
I should watch the video and not just the audio.
So tapping into your voice, I love, especially when I was really working with people, having them work on the pelvic floor muscles and learning how to activate like a Kegel contraction and release the pelvic floor muscles. We would do singing Kegels. So you do a high note, like a and if anybody's trying that right now, if you tune in and feel your pelvic floor, and especially if you have had some training in like, or have tried doing Kegel exercises, it's a feeling of a squeeze and a lift of your pelvic floor muscles, the muscles that surround your vagina, your urethra, the area you pee out of, even your anus. So these muscles squeeze and lift to contract. So it feels like you're picking up a blueberry with your anus, or like you're picking up a blueberry with your vagina. I love the blueberry.
You say that, I was like, yes.
It's such a great way to think of it. So that's a feeling of a contraction of your pelvic floor. And then when you're relaxing it, it's like you're putting that blueberry down. So when you do the you can feel, can you feel it? Can you sense in?
Yeah.
Are you picking up a blueberry? Yeah. Okay, so now do a like a really low with your jaw relaxed. Not like you're pressing or trying too hard, but you might be able to feel kind of a lengthening and widening and relaxing of your pelvic area. Yeah. So this can actually be really helpful too when people are going poop, or some people do moo. And in like labor, like during childbirth, a lot of midwives and labor and delivery nurses and doulas will have you make very, low sounds like that. We certainly don't want to be because we want to allow everything to move out.
Maybe when you're trying to hold your pee in the car.
Exactly.
In Uber in Costa Rica and there's nowhere for you to pee and just like,
that's when you do your high voiced singing. So, that's just a really simple and fun way to kind of play with that. But making those sounds can be helpful. And so that feeling, the other thing I wanted to play with was just feeling and connecting the breath and just feeling softness at the roots of these different parts of the body. So at the root of your tongue, at the root of your breathing diaphragm, which is really like the back of your heart area, the back of your heart, the root of your root, which would be like your sacrum. Yeah. So right behind your womb. So if you think about that kind of back body where there is that really dense fascia the thoracolumbar fascia, and everything kind of hooks in these places. And so really softening and widening the root and thinking about the root. And so bringing the attention to the breath. And any position, it can be nice to do this even on your hands and knees, or like in child's pose, or lying on your back, or with legs up the wall, or whatever. But feeling as you're breathing, feeling like you're breathing, like you have little lungs in the root of your tongue, the back of your tongue, and let your tongue just feel soft and wide and fluffy. And really feel like there's a little set of lungs in the root of your tongue. And just not forcing the breath, just letting it be easy. And that one can be a little bit hard. Our tongues are so active. It can be hard to relax the tongue. But it's worthwhile because it's so connected in with that jaw and that throat area. So then thinking about widening and softening the throat and going down to the back of the heart, that back of the heart area, which is going to be, around that breathing diaphragm. The heart's right above it, So feeling like you're in the back of your heart. And if you bring like a little mini version of yourself in the front of your spine, on the inside of your body. It's wild to think of. But the inside of your body and the front side of your spine and the back side of your heart, that little space. Can you feel that? And if you're breathing into that area, like you had a little set of lungs back behind your heart, and just softening that space, softening and widening the root. And then going down to the inside of the low back, the inside of the lumbar spine, down to the inside of the sacrum, letting it be soft. That inside of the sacrum, just the lowest part of the spine and the back of your pelvis, that inner sacral area, which is the area between your sacrum and your womb, that space. Think of breathing into that space. And it's just so relaxing to think of breathing and softening and widening into that space between your womb and the sacrum. And if that feels obscure or kind of weird, you can just think of like a little set of lungs down in your hips. And that's really helpful too. Just like you're breathing into your hips and just softening that area. And then connecting everything that you just softened, breathing down into your hips or your womb space, your sacrum space, and then feeling the connection as you breathe all the way up to your throat. Breathing down. So root to throat breathing, root to heart to throat, throat down to heart, down to root. Just feeling that path like a channel and breathing along that whole channel, connecting throat, heart, womb, and root. And just lighting it up. And on the next breath, if you want to add a sound, any sound, as you exhale. And if any type of like emotion comes up with that, that's wonderful to look at and to recognize. And especially if when we're doing this practice on when they felt like they had time and privacy, to really just let a sound express. Maybe it can even turn into rage. It can even turn into grief. It could even turn into anything, you know? And like I said earlier, it doesn't have to sound pretty. It could be anything. But I mean, that is pulling things out of your bowl and expressing it through the throat and just moving that energy that gets so stuck in all of these places, in our womb, in our root, in our heart, in our breathing diaphragm, in our throat. Moving it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was like, I'll just stay here.
Yeah. And I know that this has probably been really long, so we probably need to wrap it up. But
it's good.
Yeah.
It's the length that it's meant to be.
Yeah.
That you're just speaking to the movement, the expression, right?
Yeah.
Like that is such a huge, important part of expression, of creativity, as we're talking about this, like whatever that organic movement gets to be or sound gets to be. Like you and I are both part of the ecstatic dance here in town, and we go almost every single week. We just got to go last night, which was so fun. Yeah. Talk about organic movement. And oh my God, that space has like been one of the things that's been really perfect for me, dancing in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like encouraging, again, I feel like giving permission of that space of like whatever your expression looks like, sound, movement, doing weird things at the gym. Like it doesn't matter who's around you. It doesn't matter if you're alone. It doesn't matter if people hear you. Like it is okay to let yourself be the weird wildness that you are, because like that energy that is living inside of you, whatever that is, it needs an avenue out. And when we don't give it an intentional avenue out, that's when it projects out into the world as anger that is directed in not a good space, or tension
we're holding on to.
Holding inside of us.
All the times we've been held back, all the times we've held our breath, all the times we've held it in. It's not safe to express. All the times it stays, unless you, like you're saying, unless you give it permission to move.
And so this is like an invitation for that, for all of you that are listening. And it's something that I talk about with all of my clients that come in now. I'm like, we are going to do some breath work, and I want you to know that this is a safe space. Like, it's just you and me here. Like, let it come out, let it express. Like, it needs to come out, whatever that is. It could be crying, it could be vocalization, it could be screaming. It's whatever it is. It's like that needs to come out. And we've been taught for so long to stifle our expression, to be the good person that does X, Y, and Z, and you look like this, and it's just like, we are not cogs in a machine. Like, we are like incredible, infinite beings, like, that are just weird and wacky, and our bodies are weird and wacky, and our emotions are weird and wacky, and like, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's beautiful. Like, your uniqueness is so incredible, and it deserves to have an avenue out into this world. And when we do celebrate that uniqueness within ourselves, and then find people closest to us that are also like super in our corner and are willing, and like not even just willing, but like super thrilled to also celebrate and share our uniqueness, then that just gets to expand out into so much more of the world. Like, there's no way that I would be here right now doing this if it wasn't for me like doing my work, but then acknowledging my power and letting that come up and through, and just being like, it's not perfect. The first few episodes, the audio and all these things were off, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I could have not put those out into the world, but I'm like, no, this is a part of the process, you know, and like, and I'm not perfect, and I'm not like this like streamlined, like we got it all dialed 100%. Like, we refine as we go, and
we'll like always be evolving,
and we'll always be evolving, and we let our humanness be a part of that, because for so long in so many different areas of the world, it's like people are like scared to be human.
It was, probably now more than ever, with filters and AI and
all the things. But then there is this collective group of, you know, people that are, at least in my sphere, like what the algorithms show me, of people being their weirdness.
I'm aiming to be that nowadays. And like, you know what? We're weird and wild.
We're here for it.
Oh, totally. And I'm the one on your massage table that's making all the noises.
Yes, 100%. I'm like, you're like the ideal. And like, people are starting to, I'm like, good. Yeah, we got that. And I did the same thing when I was on your table. I was like, sound. Yes. Crying. Yes.
And what a blessing. What a blessing to have a provider that will just witness and just allow and be there for you. It is so healing to know that you can express, and it's safe to do so. And so,
part of that, I feel like, which you'll probably relate to a little bit, is like the only way it's been, this is a big topic, but like the only way we become comfortable in a way of being able to hold space for another in that way of like whatever is meant to come through, is because like we've held ourselves in that space. And like, that's when like, I've been reflecting on this a lot, of like, just in my past, of, you know, having a lot of like going through like emotional things, and then feeling like I didn't have people in my world that could like show up for me or hold space for that, and feeling a lot of emotions about that towards other people, but then being like, but you're externalizing that. Like, the most important thing is that you find a way to do that here for yourself. And then also tell people what you need, and then know the people that have like also done that within themselves, so that they can hold the proper space, and you'll know who those people are, because they'll meet you in that space. They won't run away, or they won't try to fix it, or, which was like my default, even holding space for other people, was like, I'm a fixer. I'd be like, okay, well, let's, like, I want to help you get better, instead of just being there. And so in this process of me going through my own journey and just being there for me, I can show up so much better in my relationships and as a practitioner. And that is such a gift.
It's so much more healing for your patients.
So much more healing.
And
I feel like understanding that on a totally different level has been profound.
Me too. Agreed.
Like, it just comes back to like, it all starts here. It all starts here instead of looking outside for
insourcing rather than outsourcing. Insourcing. Yeah. This was juicy.
Isn't it juicy? Like, maybe we should do a series.
I
There's
know.
so much to talk about. Is there anything else that feels alive in you as we start to...
Well, I mean, I could talk forever, but again,
Yes.
I think we should, I think I could be done. I feel like I could be complete right now.
But is there something that's here, that's present, that feels resonant, that...
I actually feel really darn good.
Do you feel complete?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
I feel really complete. I guess I just wish and hope that, I mean, your audience, we're probably preaching to the choir for anyone who's still listening. But, I think that, I just think this work is going to change the world. I do. Coming back to our roots, coming back to our basics, coming back to ourselves, like we've just been talking about. We need this now more than ever. I think one of my what's a big thing on my heart is, speaking for myself, I'm someone who's very easily overwhelmed by the news, social media, all of the noise. I'm a very sensitive person, and it's really come to my attention that I'm more bothered by it than maybe other people are. And so some people, whatever, they don't have to listen to me, but for me, I have to set my own boundaries. I have to know when enough is enough. I'm taking a big step back off of social media, even though my business is still primarily online. So that's a little scary. But the reason I'm even bringing this up is that it's me listening to my root. And for anyone listening on the podcast, I'm pointing down at my pelvic area. Like, it is me knowing how to tune into my center, because literally we have multiple brains. We have our brain, we have our heart brain, we have our gut brain, and we have our womb brain. And when we listen to our womb, my vagina speaks to me freaking loud. When I know something is wrong or right, I can feel it in my yoni. Like, I feel it there. Whereas some people have a gut feeling or a heart feeling or whatever. I feel it there. And so my root was telling me recently, you need to take care of yourself. You need to get off. You need to back off of this crazy ride of the world right now. And so listening to that has been, and actually starting to follow through, taking action toward what I'm hearing from myself has been really powerful in my own journey. And I just would encourage people to do that, to tune in, to listen to themselves. And the way you do it is through consistent practices like these simple things that we just talked about: softening your, breathing into your hips, softening the root of your tongue, softening your throat, making sounds, moving in ways that you want to move, not because some fitness instructor told you to do an exercise. Because like, you're just moving because it feels good.
Body, how do you want to move today?
Oh my gosh.
It's my favorite question.
Totally.
When I asked today, it was like, I want to go snowboard. I was like,
yeah,
do it.
And that's the thing is like, these somatic practices don't always have to look like these goddess flowing movements. It can be hardcore.
This like spiritual, like I'm in meditation and I'm doing this. Like, it's like really, truly like body.
What do you want?
How do you want to move today?
Yeah. How do you want to move?
What does that look like?
Yeah. So just
and
tuning
getting
in.
your brain out of the way and tuning in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's so amazing.
It's so amazing.
So I mean, like I said, just if I was to leave anything with anyone, it would be that just listen to you. And if you're a mama, if you're a daddy, if you're a whatever, if you're a human who interacts with other humans, maybe share it with somebody else.
Yeah.
Because this is the way we're becoming less and less human every day, and it scares the frick out of me. It scares me. The world is moving so fast.
We get to reclaim it first.
We get to reclaim it, and we have to.
It's right here.
And we have to. Like, we have to make the bold choice.
We do.
So.
Yeah. I was just speaking to a friend about just this in general last night, but she was relaying how she just doesn't have a lot of quiet in her world, and we're talking about listening, right? Like, in order to tap into whatever each of those brains are telling you, like, the only way that you can listen is if you're quiet.
Yeah.
And that means shutting off the stimulation, and not just like once, not just like every once in a while, but like actually which is part of the discipline. And it's hard because we are constantly bombarded. And so it comes back to that space.
Choose your hard.
Choose your heart.
Yeah.
Like, can you be with yourself? Like, okay, you want to start to change things in your world. And like, I'm going to say like one of the most important spaces to start is to even just invite quiet into your world. Like assess like where there isn't, or like what that looks like. And if you're having a hard time shutting off TV or podcasts or music or whatever, like, can you be in silence? And that doesn't mean meditation. That just means like, can you just exist with yourself in some form of silence? And that doesn't mean you just have to sit there, but like,
I've also found it really powerful bringing in the throat one more time is being in silence, but allowing myself to talk out loud to myself.
talk to spirit.
Yeah, talk to spirit,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, like you're talking about like these intuitive knowings and like all the stuff that's been coming into my world. Like the only way that I know that is because like I've been talking and asking spirit and then working with my cards and stuff like that, and allowing. I mean, I allow a lot of space for silence in my life, but like without that spaciousness and that quiet, there's no way you're gonna, at least in my personal experience, like, but sometimes we do get those guttural reactions where it's like to a person or to a situation or whatever. And that's very important to listen to. And also a lot of the, like when we're asking for certain things in our life, it's like the little whispers that come in.
Listen. Yeah.
Listen.
So we've been talking about talking and listening to.
It's all, see how fascia, my
yeah, exactly.
It's all interconnected.
It all weaves.
It's all intertwined. yeah. It's amazing. Living on this planet is so beautiful.
Yes.
Getting to be human is amazing.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
This was a pleasure.
We got to do this in the middle of the winter storm.
Me too.
It kind of, we were supposed to record the other day and that inhibited our ability, but
this was perfect.
It was perfect. It was a beautiful day. So, before we end, as my classic go-to, we're going to read a quick little prayer from Rebecca Campbell's Rise Sister Rise book. A prayer for her rising. As we shake off the shackles of the past, may we create a whole new archetype for women in these awakening times. As we reclaim our voices, may we find the strength to speak for those who do not have one. As we surrender to our cyclic nature, may we be strengthened by the effortless rhythm of the earth. As we honor our bodies, may we be reconnected with the ancient wisdom that lies within. As we remember the sacredness of our womanhood, may we step into the potency of who we came here to be. As we let go of mistrust and past hurts, may we mend the severing of sisterhood and remember that there is more than enough room for us all to rise. And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is. Aho.
Aho. That was good. Yeah. What a beautiful way to end that.
This book is so beautiful. There's like a tiny little piece off to the side. She realized that the worst patriarchy was the patriarchy she was enforcing within herself. Yeah. So on those beautiful notes, thank you so much, Bri.
Thank you.
I love you. And I'll put stuff in the show notes of how people can find you. But if there's anything you want to like,
your
website.
I have lots of websites.
I know. There's lots of things. We'll put all your stuff in the show notes. But if there's anything you want to.
So I am BrianneGrogan.com, my name. Also, my main place that people connect with me is often Vibrant Pelvic Health. So Vibrant Pelvic Health on Instagram, which I'll be less active on starting soon. YouTube, I'm all over YouTube.
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
I have like 800 videos on it. Actually, 827 videos on YouTube.
Lots of ways for people to interact.
Yes. And then, so Vibrant Pelvic Health and BrianneGrogan.com. Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being you, sharing your magic.